The first principle of especially for athletes is win the hour, and it's a first principle for a reason. If we're not efficient with our day, if we don't have productive days, it's really easy for that excuse of someday, which by the way isn't a real day. We have Monday through Sunday. Someday is the 8th day of the week. It's where dreams go to die. It's where nothing happens. And it's real easy to put our goals and our ambitions on, I'm going to do it someday, I'm going to do it someday, I'm going to do it someday. And then wake up one day and realize that someday never happened. Especially for athletes, we're encouraging not just athletes, but everybody to focus on this idea of being present, being in the moment. And a very simple way to remember that is to win every hour of the day. Now, a simpler way to remember that is that if we break our day down into 16 hours, meaning the 16 hours that we're awake. We should sleep for 8 hours. If you're an athlete and you're not sleeping 8 hours, you're actually limiting yourself tremendously and exposing yourself to the possibility of injury and other things. It's important that you're getting at least 8 hours of sleep. So assuming we're doing that, we have 16 hours a day that we're awake. We say, and especially for athletes, to try to approach every day like you would a season. If you had 16 games, you try to go undefeated and therefore go 16-0. But the first game is the most important game of the year. And then the second game becomes the most important day of the year. We're not worried about game 8, 9, and 10 during weeks 1, 2, and 3. It should be the same thing with our days. When we wake up in the morning, 7 o'clock in the evening is going to come. It's going to get here eventually. But it's not the most important thing at 7 o'clock in the morning. That first hour of the day especially, just like the first game of the year, you can't go 16-0 if you don't go 1-0. And we're not going to have a great day if we're messing up the morning. A great example of this was shared by us on our podcast last year with Dustin Smith. Dustin Smith is the current mental strength coach for the Tampa Bay Rays, a Major League Baseball team. And Dustin Smith used the example of a rocket ship. We were talking about this win the hour principle and how a rocket ship uses so much fuel to get started. The real power is generated early on in the rocket when it's burning through fuel to get up into the air and to get momentum. Once it gets that momentum going and all that thrust from the power that it generated burning through all that fuel, then it's able to coast and it doesn't need to use as much fuel. It's the same thing with us when we wake up in the day. That first hour of the day, getting up and getting going and getting moving, getting energy early in the day to push us through the rest of the day. So we get into those long afternoon hours or the middle of the season in this example that I'm giving you. We've got enough thrust from starting early to get us through that. Now, how do we sabotage ourselves? We do that when our first action of the day is a losing one. Now, we all have alarm clocks. Whether you use your phone or you use an old traditional alarm clock to wake up, you have the option on every one that I've ever seen of hitting the snooze button. We call it, especially for athletes, the lose button, the loser button. I actually got in trouble years ago, would have been 7 or 8 years ago. My now 15-year-old son was an 8-year-old when I first came up with this idea of the loser button. I thought I had this great idea and he was going to motivate him to get up and do stuff. And again, he's 8 years old, so I was being a little bit ambitious in my goals for him. I wrote loser on some duct tape and I put it on his snooze button on his alarm clock. And I said to my wife, look at this. I'm going to teach him that if he hits the snooze button, he's a loser. He's hitting the loser button. It's going to be this great motivational tool for him. Now obviously he didn't put 2 and 2 together, so he looks at his alarm clock and Dad just wrote loser and put it on my alarm clock. So I learned the hard way that you have to be a little bit careful with your young kids and explain they don't always follow the point that Dad's making. But as he got older, it did resonate with him. And as he got older and he needed to get up early, whether it was to do something in the yard or to do work, I'm happy now that he's able to wake himself up. Whether he's got to be at a football practice that starts at 6 in the morning, or he tells me tomorrow, for example, he just told me this today, that he's going to mow the lawn, and he's going to do it in the morning before it gets too hot. I'm confident that he's going to wake up and he's not going to sit around and hit his snooze button. I don't believe that most successful people in the world, in whatever field they're in, spend a whole lot of time tinkering around with their snooze button in the morning. I just don't envision those people, name the successful person, is sitting around hitting the snooze button most morning. I think they get up and they get going. They're not losing time. The first action of the day shouldn't be a losing one. And when we wake up and immediately hit the snooze button, we are starting our day off with a loss. We made a goal the night before to wake up at a certain time. And we have the first battle of the day every day is us against the alarm clock. And when we give in and hit the snooze button, it wins and we lose and we start our day off losing. So my advice, don't hit the snooze button. If you need to sleep 5 more minutes, set your alarm clock 5 minutes later the night before. But whatever you decide on the night before, commit to waking up at that time and then immediately do something hard. Get up right away and do 20 push-ups. Get up right away and make your bed, just not because it matters that your bed's made, but just to say you did it, just to start your day off doing something productive and see how that carries on into hour 2 and hour 3 and hour 4. And when you're in hour 4 and it's math class, make math class the most important thing of the day. And when you're in hour 8 and it's English class, make English class the most important hour of the day. Focus 100% on that. When you're home with your mom and dad and it's dinner time, dinner's the most important thing now. Being 100% intentionally involved in being at the table with your mom and dad, not your phone, not practice, not school, not your friends. It's your family. And the same when you're with your friends. Be engaged, look them in the eyes, talk to them, be interested in them, ask questions about them. That's how you win that hour with your friends, win that hour with your family, win that hour in school, and win that hour as an athlete. But we got to be intentional or the days will get us and we'll end up losing hours, therefore losing days, and never getting truly accomplished what we could have accomplished. Eyes up, do the work.